Another video. Different. Professor Lewin, but not the lectures. So anyway, there's this whole controversy about this stupid loop rule and, how you measure voltages in a circuit that has an inductor in it. And whether the inductor creates irregular effects that limit your ability to probe to actually measure anything, because your measuring device is in the inductive field and is actually being distorted by it, and that basically it will deceive you, and that Professor Lewin is attempting to assert essentially that there can be more than one voltage in a location, which by logic is just got to be a non-starter. It's like saying in a water pipe that at any one moment there's more than one kind of pressure, and there can't be at any one moment. And the argument here clearly, I think, isn't that the voltage is swinging in some sort of bizarre way in some frequency that can't be detected, and that there is no such thing as a measurement because the voltage doesn't know where it is, or it's so erratic, or some other thing. It's a pretty clear, simple circuit. I'll draw it, and I might as well do that now, right? You might as well do it now. So, what pen is better than the other? Let's see. Maybe I'll see if this blue has anything left in it. Anyway, so really simple. There, you just got a circuit with resistor in it, and then another resistor over here, and then you're just going to measure the voltage on these 2 points with 2 different voltmeters. And so the contention is, and there's a B field. Okay, well, we knew that marker wasn't going to last, and it didn't. So garbage. There's a B field here, radiating. And so instead of having a battery in the circuit, you have this thing creating the voltage. And so obviously it's going to create voltages by affecting the wire. The force is going to hit the wire, and it's going to create pressure. And the pressure is going to try to equalize through the circuit. And it'll do it differently because this is a, 9 ohms, and this is 1 ohm difference in the thing. And so you're trying to measure the difference in the voltages on these different resistors, but they're always going to come down to one kind of voltage at this one location you're measuring from. And so the simple argument is this is the problem. The lead's going this way and this way, because what that is they're also getting hit by this field. So the field's hitting these wires, and it's creating a current in the wires themselves. And the field on one side is going to be different than the field on this other side, presumably, to some extent because of the resistor. The resistor's difference in the resistance is going to prevent, say you're building up pressure in this wire. The pressure can't get through the higher ohm resistor. It can't get through it as easy as it can get through this other resistor. So the pressure will drop here, you can understand, because it can go this way to get to this other wire. So depending on what wire has more pressure in it and all that. And the simple argument that was made by the electro boom guy was, and I think he showed it in his video, I can't remember exactly, but I think he showed when I move these probe wires around, like from different locations, I just move the wires around, I get different readings on the voltmeter. So that's the real test. And if you moved both these voltmeters to the same side, you'd understand that you'd read the same voltage because they would be affected the same way, and they'd read the same voltage. So this whole thing is, should be sort of a moot conversation, because it should be conceded by Professor Lewin that your test instrument is in the influence of the field, and your test instrument just can't probe this. You just, reasonably. There's no real way to do it. There's safer ways. Like, yes, you could probe it by having both meters come through the center, the wiring, and then bring them both straight up and then out, probably that might work. Some way where they have exactly the same influences on them. And maybe you can probe it that way. But you're still probing an environment where your instrument is going to be, your test instrument is going to be in the influence, and you just can't realistically make a measurement. So that's what this argument's about. And I think Professor Lewin is being insanely rude. And so I'm going to play the end of this video because it's just so rude. And he does it with this little clown. Look, I'm wearing my little clown stuff, my little clown necklace. I'm a little clowny funny guy, ha ha ha, friendly. But these are real insults that he's throwing around gratuitously, and I think he's avoiding the argument so overtly. He's just dismissing it rather than explaining why it can't be. That isn't the explanation. That the probe wires are being influenced by the environment, and therefore you can't probe this experiment. Or if you're going to probe it, you have to be really careful about how you probe it. Instead of just conceding that point, he's just dismissing it and pretending he's an authority. Pretending. I guess the master. He says here, to agree or not to agree with the master, that is not what matters. Well, the point is there's a controversy, and pretending the controversy doesn't exist is idiotic. Pretending that you don't have to make an argument is idiotic. That you can just resort to your appeal to authority. What the hell is that? Except rude.
That is not discussed in any college physics book that I have seen, except...
So he concedes that most physicists don't get this. That most of them aren't paying any attention to his argument because they're saying, no, there's not two voltages in the same place. It's not possible. They're recognizing that fact. And, they're just kind of dismissing this nuance of, yes, I can do this trick, and I can make it look like there's two voltages, but there really aren't.
When you get Jackson and Purcell, I'm sure does it right too. This is hidden. And since it's hidden, people really never learn it properly. But then they have...
So he keeps saying this has something to do with, Faraday's law is the law, and if you're denying it, you're denying, something as basic as round or flat Earth. So he's calling people flat earthers because they don't agree with this interpretation. They don't think Faraday's law, which is not really a law, it's a loop rule. It's just recognizing that this is the relationship that exists in most circumstances. And the fact is this is a bizarre circumstance. It doesn't really have anything to do with the common electrical circuit. It's a very unusual electrical circuit. And there's no reason to sit there and say the law is the law. There's just no reason to do this. No reason to say there aren't exceptions that are really bizarre. Sometimes what looks like a murder isn't a murder.
12 ideas going back to the days of high school somehow. Namely,
so now he's talking, and so he's saying everybody who doesn't agree with him on this interpretation is some immature idiot who hasn't advanced since high school, and that somehow they're not understanding the nuance of the argument when he's the one not paying any attention to the argument. So a sub-irony to this is, previously in this video he said he can't find this other guy's video. I mean, it's a video with hundreds of thousands of views by a pretty popular guy, Electro Boom. Really easy to find video. I mean, not hard at all. It's probably linked in his own description. Clearly the words Electro Boom are clearly in there, the channel. So he hasn't even watched the video, and here he is critiquing it.
when you measure with 2 voltmeters, identical voltmeters, between 2 and the same points in the circuit, clearly V1 has to be V2. How can it not be?
Well, why don't you answer that question? How can it not be? It is ludicrous to say there's 2 voltages in the same location. It's as ludicrous as saying there's more water in a water pipe, that the water pipe has 10 meters per square inch of water in it or 4 meters per square inch of water in it at the same time. No, it doesn't.
Well, the reason why it cannot be is because of Faraday's law.
So again, he just keeps saying Faraday's law, Faraday's law. It's not a law. Faraday didn't invent a law. Okay, he's just describing relationships that exist that are pretty consistent. And the point is that this whole argument is this Kirchhoff guy came up with a loop rule that's a little simpler version of Faraday's law and just says, look, you don't really need this time component because you're always going to measure the circuit at a steady state. So just don't bother with the time component because the steady state is going to be a certain answer, and that's the only answer you need. You just need to know what the steady state is. You don't need to know what the, 1/1000th of a second into the process state is.
You won't believe how many messages I have received ever since my lectures went online with OpenCourseWare. Hundreds, perhaps even thousands. And during the time that I am on YouTube, hundreds, even today there were many, who said, Walter Lewin, I'm sorry, but you were a good teacher, but you were wrong. The 2 voltmeters must read the same thing.
Yeah, there must be the same voltage. So clearly, no one's saying the 2 voltmeters must read the same thing because they're in different locations. Put the voltmeters in the same location with the wiring in the same positions and exposed to the same amount of force, and you'll probably get the same results. And so that'll answer the question that this is really just about the position of the probe wires. That's the simple argument here. The probe wires are deciding what the voltage is. Move the probe wires and you change the voltage. That's that simple. The argument isn't complicated, and you're evading it.
Perhaps you remember Shakespeare's Hamlet. To be or not to be, that is the question. The title of this video...
Yeah, and you did a previous video with the same stupid title, so whatever that is supposed to mean. Again, it's just an evasion of the subject. This isn't about, you're above controversy. You're above having to explain yourself. You're above when somebody says, it's really not possible for there to be 2 voltages. We really have to have a better explanation. That just sounds like rubbish and nonsense. I mean, that's just, why don't you just throw more woo into physics?
Will be to agree or not to agree is not what matters. What matters is whether you understand Maxwell's equations, whether you...
There's nothing to understand about Maxwell, because again, this just goes back to Faraday. So the only thing you're defending is Faraday, and you're just saying that somehow Faraday accounts for this, and he doesn't. So there's no argument. Faraday doesn't tell you, just move the meter to the other side. Put the 2 voltmeters on the same side of the experiment, and they'll read the same voltage. Faraday doesn't tell you that.
Understand Faraday's law and whether you know how to use it. I realize that many of you find this difficult. It is one of the most difficult parts of able to add first to your call.
There's nothing difficult. I mean, it's a simple accusation that the problem with your little gimmick experiment is that you're not showing that this is just about how you probe the experiment. If I move the voltmeter here, I change it. If I move it over here, I change it. If I move it over here, I change the voltage I'm measuring. That's an obvious problem.
The rumor has it, that is only a rumor, that there is a person who says he has a master's degree in electrical engineering.
So you say you have some sort of doctorate in physics. So it just says you. I never saw this degree. Maybe it's a lie. Maybe you got it like in some crappy school, Buzzsaw Engineering Inc. or something. So, what a lousy aspersion to cast, on a guy who clearly knows his shit, been making videos for a long time, and here you are sitting here doubting whether he has a master's degree because he disagrees with you. I mean, amazing bullshit. You should have your integrity challenged merely because somebody doesn't agree with you.
And that person, according to some of my former students, makes the following statement.
He made a video, okay? You can go watch it. It's really easy to find. It's not difficult at all. I'm amazed your students, what do they take you to the bathroom? I'm sorry, I'm just going to be insulting. They have to wipe your ass for you? You can't find a video on YouTube that has hundreds of thousands of views and has your own frickin' name in it? I mean, come on. Yes, sorry, nobody should get old. I'm sorry, yes, there should be a law against getting old. It doesn't do anybody any good.
I will give you a close-up shortly on that, but I will read it to you now.
Yes, we all need a close-up. We need to actually see the text. We're that retarded. So you're talking physics to people who think they need. We need you to see the actual typewritten text. No, we don't. I mean, this is just clown behavior. Like somehow, if you zoom in on the text, it means somehow you've appropriately dealt with the point made. So yes, his conclusion, after he shows the experiment, does the experiment, moves the wire, shows how the wires are screwing it up, does all of that, and then he makes the clear statement that, look, I think this whole controversy is just about the fact you can't probe this experiment.
The entire reason Dr. Lewin was reading two different voltages was due to bad probing.
Great response. Brilliant. You win.
If it's really true that he has a master's degree in electrical...
So again, so he's called him a flat earther. He's saying you're basically as dumb as a high school student. You never learned anything. You never evolved as a human being. So, I mean, this rhetoric is really just obnoxious from a professional.
engineering. And makes such a ridiculous statement.
Yeah, a statement he demonstrated with the experiment. Just basically said, look, I really hate to disagree with you. He was painting through the whole video. I'm going to disagree with the great Walter Lewin, and I really don't want to do this. And blah, 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 blah. He was so fucking polite. And you are so fucking rude.
Then you shouldn't feel so bad anymore. Because if someone with a master's degree in electrical engineering doesn't understand Faraday's law...
So again, he keeps saying this is about Faraday's law, when no, it's about, can you probe this experiment? Is there any way to detect the voltage without becoming part of the experiment, a part of the circuit? Can the voltmeter passively interact with this circuit? And I think the simple answer is, no, it can't.
Well, you were forgiven for also not understand Faraday's law. Do me one favor, though, because I have not been able to find that video.
I mean, hilarious. Just insanely hilarious. How did you try? Do you know what the internet is? Has any of your students told you about what the internet is?
It may not even exist.
Amazing. So he gets comments about it. They're littered in his video, the comments. Electric boom, blah, 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 blah. They're using his real name, all that kind of stuff. So it's all over the comment section. So he's saying all his commenters watched a video that doesn't exist. I mean, just bury yourself under bullshit.
Can you try to find that video? And can you then confirm that that person spoke the words? The entire reason Dr. Lewin was reading two different voltages was due to bad probing. And let me know.
Well, why don't you answer the question why it can't be the probing? Why don't you answer why it can't be that the fact is the 2 meters are on the left and right side, and that's why they're measuring different voltages. It's because they're in a different field configuration. To use your own words, field configuration. There's a different field configuration on the left side than there is on the right side. That's why they're reading different voltages.
Well, he really said it.
Yeah, I said it. Okay, I said it before he said it, actually. I said it. I said it when I played your lecture video. I said it.
What he's basically saying, as so many others have been saying, equivalent to saying the Earth is flat.
So, he just said it's equivalent to saying the Earth is flat, to do the experiment, demonstrate that there's a real problem in attempting to measure this voltage, and if you don't twist the wires or do this or do that, well, and even if you do that stuff, you're still not going to be protected from it. I mean, he didn't do the exact thing of putting the two voltmeters right next to each other and have the wires go right next to each other and probe it and see if they read the same voltage, but I'm pretty confident they would.
You can continue discussions about this.
So the same crap he gave you the last. So he'll just keep making videos where he's completely unresponsive to the point made. Can't even find the video. Can't do this. Can't do that. Can't understand the argument that's being made. He'll just malign the person making it, and keep making videos saying, "Go ahead and discuss it. I'm not going to pay any attention because I believe in my religion." And that's all. It's Faraday's religion.
About the issue.
I think if Faraday was alive today, he could understand this is you got this difficult problem of trying to probe an experiment that's leaking energy all over the place. Yeah, that's a real problem.
Which is non-negotiable that in the case of an induced EMF, potentials are no longer determined and potential differences in a circuit depend on the path. It's non-negotiable. But you get
again, it's just idiotic. It's non-negotiable. There's no path difference at the two locations. The two locations are an explicit location, an explicit wire. There's no path difference. It's one location you're measuring.
discuss it as long as you want to on my YouTube channel. However, you have to forgive me that I will not contribute to your debates or your discussions.
Right, you'll just malign people and essentially slander them and do it in a completely environment of your own ignorance that is entirely unjustifiable ignorance. I can't believe none of your students, while they're taking you to the bathroom, can't sit there and explain to you that, look, here's the video, I can play it to you for you right on my iPhone.
I already stopped answering questions related to this within a year that my lectures were on OpenCourseware. At best, what I may do is simply send you a copy of this video, and maybe also a copy of my lecture notes of lecture 20, and maybe also lecture 16.
Again, the context being that somehow nobody's watched this crap when they have watched the argument. I've watched your argument, okay? And yes, it's, like I said, it doesn't make any sense. And clearly, if you did a little bit of playing with the experiment, I think you could realize that you can change the voltage by just moving the voltmeter. I move the voltmeter, the voltage changes. Gee, that might be an indication that there's something wrong with how you probe the experiment.
You may say you're a bad teacher, because a good teacher would debate these issues with you.
You're rude, is what you are, and arrogant. I don't even know about the quality of your teaching, and frankly, I think, yes, the whole subject of physics is taught foolishly because you don't even understand how any of this crap works, and you just make the declarations about what the truth is. You don't understand what any of this stuff does or how it does it. It's all magic wooey forces. It's all frickin' action at a distance. It's all spooky action.
Well, there are certain things I don't debate. I don't debate with people.
So here you go. He's going to make again a comparison that he's a flat earther. He's a lying moron. Essentially, that's the only way he could be a flat earther. Instead of just conceding that he's done he's made a thoughtful effort to understand. He's done the work of doing the experiment himself, and he comes to the conclusion that yes, this is about probing. And it's a perfectly rational argument.
Something which is so very basic physics, like Faraday's law.
Faraday's law. Again, it's not a law. It's just a stupid formula that recognizes relationships that exist in most circuits that have pluses and minus voltage generators. They have batteries. They don't have things making fields in the middle of the circuit.
Neither do I debate with people whether the Earth is flat or not flat. If you're angry at me now, if you don't want to be friends with me.
Well, I think you're the one pointing out how I'll insult the hell out of you and you have to eat it because I have a funny hat on and I'm an old man, and so I can just take advantage of that and I can insult the hell out of you and it's okay. You should like it. I don't think anybody should take that crap. And again, the guy was so respectful, And I mean, he was bowing to you in the video. He actually bowed to you in the video, acknowledging your accomplishments and the rest of it. And here you are just gratuitously insulting him, and you haven't even heard his argument.
My task is to teach you correct physics.
Yes, to be an ivory tower bullshitter and to pretend you know everything and you're all so pompous and arrogant. Well, if I couldn't figure out reality, then you can't figure out reality, so we're all stuck with this nonsense of particle dualities and Heisenbergs and randomness and all this other mush that you make up. And it's all crap.
And if the result of that is that many of you don't want to be friends with me, that's okay. I will accept.
You're the unfriendly fellow. I'm just pointing it out. But if people can't be nice enough to you, and you'll still, give them food that fell on the floor.
That is the price I have to pay. So, have a nice day, take care, and I'll try to zoom in on that totally absurd statement, which of course is only a rumor. I'm not even sure that the person ever said this.
Yes, it's only a rumor. It's a video watched by more people than watched yours by about 100 times. So this is yeah, he's like 1925 internet.
Can you read it?
Yes, look, can you read it now? Reading it is so important.
Read it in connection with
Don't watch the actual video.
the words
Dr. Lewin, is he really a doctor?
by Homer, who stated very clearly the opposite. All right, so we will end.
And the other guy didn't state exactly the opposite. He was just pointing out that you can read these two different voltages, and he didn't make any conclusions about why you're reading two different voltages.
We will end with two readings, if I can do that. Yeah, we will end with two readings. Two identical voltmeters connected to the same 2 points in the circuit will not show identical readings. And then comes this absurd statement.
And the theoretical predictions are confirmed by simple experiments. Yeah, and the point is that I don't know what theoretical prediction would be involved, but regardless, let's say they have a theoretical prediction that there's two different voltages in a wire, which is a stupid theory in the first place. But what's confirmed by the experiment actually done, is if you move the voltmeter, you can change the voltage to anything you want. Any voltages, you can read any voltage. The voltage in the wire changes because I move the voltmeter. That isn't a clear indication of, no, you're drawing the wrong conclusions.
By someone who claims he has a master's degree in electrical.
Right, and you claim to be a professor of physics. It's just a claim. Where's the proof?
Engineering. The entire reason Dr. Lewin was reading two different voltages was due to bad programming.
Yeah, and the whole reason why you think there's wave interference in the radar experiment is because you don't understand what jamming is. Yeah. Your physics is grossly flawed, and you're clearly ill-equipped to defend it. Alright, so I did my job here, I think. Hopefully the video recorded properly and such. So anyway. Oh, I didn't have the... Sorry. Yeah, well, life is tough. So you didn't get to see Professor Lewin's, in the video. Sorry. My bad. Totally my mistake. I'll give you some quick images of them, and then you'll see.
The brilliance of Mother Nature.
See, brilliance of Mother
The
Nature.
brilliance.
Yeah.
Ever since my lectures went online, with open courseware.
Okay.
I got plenty really. and makes such a ridiculous statement, then you shouldn't feel so bad anymore.
Yes, right. So again, it calls it ridiculous to sit there and say, well, that doesn't really make sense to me that there's two voltages in identical locations. It's really just not possible. You know, bird can't be up in the air and be sitting on a branch at the same time. I mean, I know physics is loopy, but it can't be this stupid loopy. This is stupid. I'm going to find out what the real cause is. And it was a really simple cause. Somebody else probably should have done the experiment a long time ago to sit there and just isolate the factors that are affecting it. So anyway, so sorry for what you missed of Professor Lewin's. Like I said, it wasn't much to see. Anyway, my bad. Sorry. Flaw in production. A lot of stress here. It's just everything can go wrong, can keep going wrong for a while. So it's just one of those kind of periods there. Just, I mean, I shouldn't complain. I don't got a broken leg, so at least it's not that bad. But I just mean all the little things that can go wrong or just been going wrong. Anyway, till next time.